You are listening to a series of 10 podcasts on the foundations of American government and politics, presented by Citizen U. Episode 2. Identify the critical historical events leading up to the ratification of the U.S. Constitution. In addition to the Continental Enlightenment thinkers, the foundations of American government are also rooted in our own colonial experience. Protestant congregations were self-governing. The salutary neglect that characterized the American experience, when combined with the changing attitudes about legitimate government authority on the continent, provided the essential backdrop to understanding our revolution in 1776. The American Revolution was fought and won for the cause of liberty. Thomas Paine, in Common Sense, 1776, called liberty the cause of mankind. Thomas Jefferson, in the Declaration of Independence, 1776, put in writing an American response to uphold equality for all. Government here would be a byproduct of the people. All legitimacy and authority would be rooted in the consent of the governed. Our political institutions would be self-governing. Such ideas were so revolutionary, no long-lasting model of government existed. Our first attempt would fail. The Articles of Confederation, the first governing charter of the United States, succeeded in ending the war with England and proposing territorial rules for expansion, but maintaining order it could not. There were a number of fatal flaws built into the Articles. There was no executive branch. There was no judicial branch. A unicameral Congress could not tax or regulate trade. The Articles of Confederation, understandably, created a weak central government. Too weak, as the United States government was unable to adequately deal with the Shays' Rebellion in Massachusetts. All that was gained in the American Revolution for the rights of man looked to be on shaky ground. Leaders from across the new 13 states joined together in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787 to make amends. In the end, they chose not to correct the Articles, but to start over and write a brand new Constitution. Today, their work still serves as our guiding document. In the new Constitution, our Founding Fathers address both the strengths and weaknesses of their earlier experience. History suggests that this new Constitution was almost scuttled due to a dispute over representation between the large and small states. Had it not been for compromise, the Great Compromise, the United States Constitution never would have succeeded. Creating a two-house legislature placated both large and small states. Population would dictate representation in the House of Representatives, while the Senate would be made up of two members per state. This bicameral Congress, comprised of a House and Senate, was just one compromise that allowed for our new Constitution to be ratified in 1789. Ratification did not come easy. 9 of the 13 states were required to ratify this new governing document before it was empowered to serve the people. A series of essays called the Federalist Papers, written by proponents, helped nudge the state legislatures toward ratification. 2 of the most noted essays were Federalist 10 and Federalist 51. Federalist 10, written by James Madison, addressed the need for a republican form of government. It also assuaged the fear over dangerous factions controlling the government at large. Madison argued that factions could never be abolished without removing personal liberty. A large republic, however, could limit them. A large republic would make it unlikely that any one faction or special interest could control the whole government. In doing so, Madison was espousing a pluralist system. An elite class would not rule here. Rather, many competing groups would attempt to influence public policy. Pluralism would protect us from an authoritarian government. Federalist 51 addressed the fear that a centralized government might jeopardize individual freedom. If men were angels, Madison argued, we would not need a government. Madison explained how the separation of powers and the system of checks and balances would protect personal liberty. Nevertheless, a strong, but not too strong, central government was essential to enjoying that liberty. One more issue would need to be settled before the necessary number of states would sign on to this new governing document. The framers would need to add a Bill of Rights. The members of the Constitutional Convention argued that this new government would not be strong enough to imperil individual liberty. Their arguments were insufficient. Assurances were made that a Bill of Rights would be added. The first 10 amendments, our Bill of Rights, were proposed and ratified by the first Congress and ratified by the states in 1791. With the proposal and ratification of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, some would say America had completed its second revolution. The first brought independence and the promise of liberty. The second established a workable government based on popular sovereignty, but also protected order. That document still serves us today. Let's take a closer look at the United States Constitution. You've been listening to a series of podcasts on the foundations of American government and politics, presented by Citizen U.